I'm sure there's plenty of reasons. I think the main reason, though, that people thought that Eddie was older than Buck is because Ryan Guzman is older than Oliver Stark, which I recently found this out, because Oliver is 33 and Ryan is 37. So that's probably why. I imagine that, along with the fact that Eddie did the 2 tours, and the fact that he's a dad, that makes, and also the line in his first episode, "You're not his elder, Buck," made people assume that he was older. And I think that overall 911 is operated under the assumption that Buck is younger than Eddie, but they're around the same age. But no one actually knows how old Buck or Eddie are. No one knows how old Eddie is specifically. We know that Buck is around 33, because in season 6, they said he was 30, and in season 1, they said he was 26. So he is probably around the same age as Oliver Stark, because, again, those ages mirror how old Oliver Stark was, and also, kind of add up with the overall timeline in a way. The timeline doesn't make a lot of sense, but, to an extent, it lines up. But they've never actually said how old Eddie is. They haven't said how old almost anyone is, other than Chris and Buck. Yeah. And we know Bobby's in his 50s, which is a fact that's addressed in season 1 and 2, and then pretty much never again. Yeah, so overall, I'm sure there's plenty of reasons why people are like, oh my, are so passionate about Eddie being older than Buck. I don't think it actually matters that much, but I think overall people have assumed for the last, several years that Eddie probably is, because Ryan is older than Oliver. But the show's kind of contradicted that a bit with just saying, dates of, I think it was the year Shannon was born, being after the year Buck was born or something. Which isn't, fully clear when that was either way. And then Shannon and Eddie are supposed to be about the same age. But again, like I said, anything to do with any dates in the show, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Because, it just doesn't make sense. No one knows what's happening. No one knows how much time has passed. No one knows what year it is. No one knows how old anyone is. But, because there isn't an explicit confirmation of whether it's Buck or Eddie who's older, there are people who have opinions on why they think it should be a certain way. I thought the general consensus was that Eddie was older. I don't know where I got that from necessarily. I thought that they were the same age, and Eddie was a little bit older. I don't know why I thought that, but that's kind of what I thought for a while. It was just kind of the vibe I got, and then finding out again that Ryan is 4 years older, made sense. And then again, consistently in fan fiction too, that's kind of what they write, is Eddie's a little bit older, at least in some capacity. Whether it's a couple months or a couple years, he's usually older in fan fiction. But it's a similar thing even with Eddie's sisters, and whether he's the oldest or youngest or middle child. I thought that in the show, it was explicitly confirmed that Eddie was the oldest, and it's not. Granted, we've never even seen his sisters, so as far as we're concerned, they don't even exist, but I legitimately thought that it was explicitly canon that Eddie was the oldest brother of 2 sisters. I thought he was the oldest, which, for me, personally, everything that I've seen about Eddie, and whenever I watch the show, it seems like he plays the role of the oldest daughter. He is given the role that oldest daughters are given. Similarly to how Dean Winchester gets that role in Supernatural. He feels like a character being written as the oldest daughter, the one who had to raise their younger siblings, you know what I'm saying? I'm a middle child now because I have a stepbrother who's 2 years younger than me, but growing up, I was the youngest of 3 kids, and the oldest was 10 years older than me. So she watched me when my parents were at work, and she drove me to school for the last, like, 2 years of high school for her. She drove me and my brother to school. Like, he is not a youngest child, in my opinion. Like, given everything that I know about him as a character and everything I know about how he grew up, he's not a youngest child. And we know for sure that he's older than at least one of them, because there is one of the stories, and again, this could be redacted because, like I said, the timeline doesn't make any fucking sense, but, like, there is a story about how he, at 13, tried to drive his mom's car to drive her to the hospital when she was pregnant. But as far as I was concerned this entire time, he was the oldest. And like I said, he's the oldest daughter. And people have even pointed out similarly, and this isn't really on topic, but, like, that Chris, by all intents and purposes, represents, like, a mother and daughter, like, dynamic. You know, their arc right now reminds me of, like, Merida and her mom's arc in Brave. Like, so, yeah. To me, and, you know, Buck is the youngest sibling who was raised by his older sister. So, in their dynamic, it makes sense to me that Eddie is older, even though he might not actually be. Anyway, I don't know if this made any sense, and I think I'm completely off topic, so I'm gonna stop talking now, and I'm gonna go to bed, because it's almost 2 in the morning, and it's been a day. This probably didn't really answer your question, because there really isn't much of an answer to this question. It is different depending on the person. Everyone has different opinions, and because the timeline doesn't make any sense, my iPad fell, and so did the, Apple Pencil. Because there is no clear, concise timeline in the show, and no one knows, has any confirmation for how old anyone is, or what year it is, or when anyone's birthdays are, people just form opinions based on vibes. And especially in this fandom, I find people can't seem to accept that because there's no canon for this, you cannot be right or wrong here, and your opinion is not more correct here. That's a common thing I find in this fandom. Is people have headcanons, and then people are like, no, it doesn't match my headcanon, or my headcanon directly contradicts yours, so you're incorrect. And I know I talked in this video saying, like, oh, specifically for me, I want to clarify, like, I think that Eddie is older than Buck, and I think that Eddie is an oldest sibling, is, like, the older sibling, and he has 2 younger siblings. This is not explicitly canon, so I could be wrong, and if you have a differing opinion, that's totally fine. This is how I view the situation, but again, there's no canon, so it doesn't actually, like, matter, because if they haven't cared enough to make it canon, it's actually just not that important. These are just the vibes that I get based on my personal experience. It's like, the whole, like, who is older is also, like, kind of goes hand in hand with the whole top and bottom discourse with Buck and Eddie, which don't even get me started on. It, like, just have fun. Stop arguing with people over things that aren't canon, and probably never will be. Just go with the vibes, and if people don't agree, oh well, it's fine. I need to sleep.